Yeah, good evening. My name is Brian, and I'm going to be your instructor this evening for this particular section. And we are going to take our time to look at what HTML is all about. What is HTML? HTML simply stands for Hypertext Markup Language. H for hyper, T for text, M for markup, and L for language. It is the standard language used to create and structure content on the World Wide Web. HTML provides a way to describe the structure and presentation of documents, enabling the creation of websites and web applications. HTML documents are made up of elements represented by tags, which are used to mark up different parts of the content. These tags are enclosed in angle brackets and they come in pairs. An opening tag and a closing tag. The content to be displayed on the web page or the website is placed in between this tag. What I'm trying to say is let me go to Notepad. We have something like, let's say we have something like this. We have something like this. This is the opening tag. That your bracket. This is the opening tag. Why for closing tag we have the bracket slash and the bracket. This is closing. This is the closing tag. Yeah, this is closing tag. Why this opening tag? So in between the closing and the opening tag, that's here. That is where we have what we want to display in our web page. Will be here. Like you want to display I am a good person, my picture, and the rest of them. Everything will not be in between the opening and the closing tag. So that's what this particular sentence is trying to explain. Okay. So HTML documents are text-based. They are text-based and consist of a hierarchy structure with nested elements defining the relationship between different parts of the content. The basic building blocks of an HTML document include heading, paragraph, images, links, list, form, tables, and more. When a web browser encounters an HTML document, it interprets the HTML document or code and renders the content on the user screen accordingly. The browser applies styles such as CSS to control the appearance of the content and execute script, that JavaScript, to add interactivity and dynamic behavior to your website. Now HTML is continuously evolving with a new versions introducing additional features and improvements. The latest version is HTML5, which introduced many new elements and attributes, making it more powerful and flexible for building modern web applications. In summary, HTML is the foundation of web development, providing the essential structure and content for web pages and applications, allowing users to access and interact with information on the internet. So HTML, that is why we actually started this training, because this is the foundation of web design. You need to understand HTML very well before you begin to grow in your career of or profession of web design. So we are going to look at the basics of HTML. The basics of HTML include understanding its syntax, structure, and some essential elements. Here is a concise overview of the fundamental concept. Once you understood the syntax, the structure, and some elements in HTML, I think you are good to go. So let's look at some of those things that we are supposed to know. One, we are supposed to understand the HTML document structure. The HTML document structure. An HTML document structure starts with a document type declaration to specify the version of the HTML being used. The document is then enclosed within HTML tags, which contains two main sections, the head section and the body section. We are going to look at these sections in practical sense when we get to that time. So let's just understand the theoretical aspect of it. Okay, now the head section, which has this bracket head, then close of bracket, greater than or less than sign. The head section contains meta information about the document, such as the page, title, links to external style sheets, scripts, and other meta data. It is not visible to the users directly. That it has not visible to the user, but you that is writing the code, you see what you are doing on the code side using that head section. Then let's look at the body section. The body section contains the visible content of the web page, such as text, image, links, forms, and many more. This is where the main content and user interaction are defined. This is where anything you want to display on your website, this is where you code it. So that's why it is called the body section. The body section. So let's look at the elements and tags. HTML uses elements represented by tags to define the structure and content of a page. Elements are enclosed within opening and closing tags. The opening tag starts with elements, and the closing tag also ends with elements. This is the opening tag, elements, then the closing tag is this. Remember your slash for closing tag. Now, where elements represent the HTML element's name, e.g. this less than sign, the bracket and p, then your dot in between. This is where you put your code. This is a paragraph element. Then for paragraph, then we look at attributes. Elements can have attributes that provide additional information or configuration for the element. Attributes are defined within the opening tag and have a name and a value. For example, this is an image tag with xroc, which is the attribute that source equals to image.jpg. This image.jpg is your image, the image you saved in your system or your phone. You understand? So you should know this, the source, that the link. Then auth, AF is auth equals to a beautiful picture. Now this a beautiful picture describes this image. If this image for one reason or the other did not display on your browser, you will see this a beautiful picture displayed. That's why it is having that alternative, that auth as part of this attribute, where sroc and auth are the attributes. Now let's look at basic elements. Some basic elements, some commonly used basic HTML elements include the heading h1, h2, h3, h4, h5 down to h6. Then we have the paragraph, we have the links, that is the A, we have the image tag, this is img, we have the list, ul, ol, and li. We know the meaning of all these in details. We have the form input button, we have table as the elements. Then nesting elements can be nested inside one another to create more complex structure. Proper nesting elements for well formed HTML. White space. HTML ignores extra white space and line breaks, making it more readable. However, excessive white space can affect the page's layout and should be used judiciously. Now let's look at comments. You can add comments in your HTML using this tag and syntax. Comments are usually for adding notes to your code that won't be rendered on the web page. Now this is trying to say that if you are doing coding and you want to describe your code so that maybe when you come back you cannot continue from where you stop, you use this comment tag so that you now know that okay, that particular description is for this particular line or for the rest of that. If you want to always give yourself a reminder what that particular code is for, use the comment section, because it's not going to be displayed on your web page, just on your code section. Now this is an example of the comment. We have the main, something like this with this tag. This is a multiple line control. This statement now is not going to be displayed on your web page. It's just under your code section. Just a reminder for you. Now we look at the semantic elements. HTML introduced semantic elements like header, nav, main, articles, section, footer, etc., which provides more meaning and context to the structure of a web. So we'll look at all these things in details very soon. Let's just go through all these things. Then accessibility. Use attributes like alt for images and provide proper label and input annotation in forms to improve web page accessibility. Now remember that HTML is a markup language and does not handle complex logic programs. Does not handle complex logic like programming languages. To add interactivity, you often use JavaScript along HTML and CSS for styling to create interactive and visual appealing pages. Yes, so in our next class we are going to look at some of these things, in a practical sense. Then we will now begin to appreciate this particular write-up. So I want to say a very big thank you for all of us that have taken time to go through this section, and I also urge us to go back and study some of these things back, so that when we begin to go into practical, it begins to make much sense to you. And I also wish that you also share this video with your friends, so that they can be able to benefit from this particular opportunity. And also, if you have any questions, you can drop it down in the comment section. When we come back, we'll review the questions and we'll go back into it again. Thanks so much for your time. Say God bless.